Welcome back, wrestling community, and welcome to this special edition of WrestleTalkShow, where we're going to go into greater detail on what we just reported. WWE stock takes another dive since last Wednesday's reported low. The financial community is now questioning the management and the timeline that all these events transpired. Let's take you back a week or two when we reported that a company called Y Charts had gone over WWE's dividend payment policy, and despite the company losing money these last 2 years, it's maintained the highest dividend payout to its shareholders. What I chalked up to, you won't know, what I kind of mentioned if you look in videos before this, going back, like, I want to say 2 to 3 months ago, where we're paying you investors out the ass, so when something goes wrong, you won't see it because you're still getting paid the same amount. But what it wound up coming down to was the investors actually came out and said we'd be willing to take less of a dividend payout to see that the money that we would be getting is going back into the company for financial stability. So 2-3 weeks ago, all the investors called for was financial stability. In the 2 to 3 weeks that this has gone by, WWE stock dropped to $12.30 a share. That was as of last week. The company came out and said that in its fourth quarter report, the first week of February, it will be reporting less than expected earnings for the fourth quarter. And then this recent news of nearly a 5% drop since last Wednesday, that WWE shares were involved in mass trading yesterday, and it reached a 52-week low of closing at $11.76 a share. Now, what I kind of touched on and what I made the segment of the show, and I kind of didn't get to touch on fully because there's some interruptions towards the end, but it was a flawless video other than that, was there's a reason for this. The writing is finally on the wall. All these months of uninteresting programming, unrelated programming to wrestling, and storylines that no one wants to follow, can't follow because they're too short, or don't really care about, is finally coming full circle for the wrestling giant. You can buy out your competition, but there are some things that you just can't get away from. And to go in on that further, WWE is now seeing that what I hope will be, hey, we can't have entertainment writers on the payroll. What do entertainment writers do for wrestling? Entertainment writers like Freddie Prinze Jr. do nothing for wrestling. What I proposed months ago, and I still think would be a good idea, and it would justify these $1 million contracts if they could produce something viable that the fans wanted to follow, is take these beat up legends that we've been bagging on for months, that we're wondering what they're being paid for because they don't really do anything, and instead of bringing back the Main Event Mafia for another failed attempt, find people that were around. I'm not saying bring back the Attitude Era. You can't. The players aren't there. The atmosphere isn't there. More importantly, the audience that liked it is not there, because in the 12, 15 years since the Attitude Era, wrestling has changed dramatically. What they need to do is take these legends and put wrestlers on your writing team to write a wrestling program. Here are some flaws I never understood. More than happy to see SmackDown reaching its 2.0 goals for sci-fi. But one, you might have heard that there's some backlash from the people that used to like the lineup that was on Friday night before SmackDown took it over. And this actually makes sense, because what the hell is science fictional about professional wrestling? It should be on a sports channel. It should be somewhere where sports are encouraged. That way you could push everything and it wouldn't be so out of place. Yeah, they'll fit in. They fit in now because we've gotten used to it. But what is it doing on science fiction when you have ESPN, USA Network, the Comcast Universal merger means everything's basically all the same. Go for USA. They have a great backing for USA. You could get your Raw audience on Mondays, and provided what you put before and after it, I would argue you could get a bigger audience from a network that you'd expect wrestling programming from. But to come full circle, get wrestlers to start writing your wrestling material. Like I mentioned before, WWE announces that Bob Barker will be a guest host at WrestleMania 27. What the hell does Bob Barker have to do with professional wrestling? Are the wrestlers going to get spayed and neutered? I know I've used this joke twice, but seriously, what is he going to do that is going to impact wrestling so much that they're probably paying him a nice chunk of change for a 20-minute appearance? What does he bring to the table of professional wrestling? And this is what you need to say about the writers. What do the writers we have now in both TNA and WWE, I'm not excluding them, any of them, what do they bring to the table for professional wrestling? Now, I would argue that maybe one entertainment writer's there, because you could get your wrestling writers and then you could bring it to the entertainment writer and he could find a steady flow for everything if you're promoting something, what have you. But when you replace the wrestling writers, as I mentioned months before, when you replace the wrestling writers with entertainment writers, they're going to turn it into a variety show and less about wrestling. We need to bring back the feud storyline angle, where you play out a storyline for 3.5 weeks, and then on the 4th week, it cultivates, it comes together at your pay-per-view, thus creating an audience for each week of programming, and then at the very end, giving you your buy rates for the pay-per-views that they're having so much trouble selling anymore. Buy rates will be out for the last 3 pay-per-views very soon, within the next month or so, and I'm interested to see how they're doing. Now the financial community is questioning the management, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Put Vince on the seat and say, look, I never understood why we're even having this conversation. What's the problem with taking a step back, looking at what you did 10, 15 years ago, not resurrecting it completely, but figuring out what sold and what didn't? What you're going to find 90% of the time is the fans just want wrestling that they can follow, that makes sense, that the feuds and stories come to a head at the pay-per-view, and it's not given away, or it's not actually concluded on a Monday Night Raw, like WWE's been having problems with, where they make you pay for the pay-per-view, but on more than one occasion towards the end of 2011, you had your pay-per-view, and then John Cena's firing, for example, was official as of Raw. It should have all happened on the pay-per-view that you paid $45 to see. And then what you need to ask Vince is, how come you've been snowballing us for 2 years? how much trouble are we actually in? Why do you feel the need that although you're losing money, and this is something I never thought I'd see him do, considering he's a businessman first, is he's basically paying so they overlook the fact that the company is not stable right now financially. Oh, here's some money. Your payout hasn't changed, so you shouldn't worry about anything until that does. He should have implemented this a year ago, dare say a year and a half ago, and said what the investors said to him. Look, I'm going to be giving you less on your dividends, but I'm going to be putting it back into the financial stability of this company. Because, just say it was last year, for the last year we've been losing money. And to cut this off at the pass, I want to build a nest egg so we can keep producing wrestling programming for months or years to come, however you gauge the pay-in scenario. But his problem is maybe not a simple fix, but it's simple to see where the problem lies. And that's, you're getting more and more people interested in MMA because it's real contact, real fighters. The stories that they do when MMA does a build-up, when they pull the trigger on a match, it's pulled. There's no halfway and pulling back out. Maybe he's going to fight this guy and then he winds up not. It's a match. The build-up's there. They build it up very well. It's in a nice little package, and it all comes together at said fight. You're getting more people interested in that. And that's your main flaw, outside of you're not producing storylines or wrestlers that people want to see. And the people that you could push, like your John Morrison, and you're doing all right with the Miz, Alberto Del Rio. John Cena will always be the fan favorite. Alberto Del Rio looks like a Royal Rumble winner, which is a step in the right direction. But where is your John Morrisons, these people that are supposed to be replacing your older talent, like your CM Punk? Like, all of this is starting now, but the losses are already established. It's too late now to start doing what we recommended 6 months to a year ago. You now have to start praying that everything you produce for the next year gets decent buy rates and start nest egging this. Stop being so concerned about money left over in the balance sheet and other areas of business that you're doing well when your live production, pay-per-view, and house show revenue sucks. I know I didn't do I'll comment on it again. When I went to Monday Night Raw in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Wachovia Center, Wells Fargo Center, you could literally see hundreds of seats that were not taken. No one was in the boxes. These are places that used to be packed. Used to love it when wrestling came because there wasn't many others. Now you have ROH that's cheaper than a WWE event that draws better than a WWE event, when it used to be the opposite way around. Vince used to run this game, and now he's a follower. It's fine if you've got the money, but if you don't know how to use said money, push the talent that needs to be pushed, and kill off the feuds that people are getting tired of. Like, the streak is a selling point, but how long can you use it? And just all this needs to be evaluated. Vince's whole business practice needs to be evaluated. All this and more at WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Just start pushing your fresher talent. CWEcompany@gmail.com. Friend us at Facebook and Twitter, both at CWE Company. All I'm asking for is wrestling in my wrestling program. Thank you. We appreciate your viewership and hope you found the point in all this, because we've only been saying it for months.